It's a question I get asked all the time, a debate that rages at dinner tables and across the internet. What is the best way for us to eat? Should we fill our plates with vibrant vegetables, legumes, and grains, or should we embrace our ancestral past with hearty portions of meat and fish? Everyone seems to have a strong opinion. Many people are searching for the one true diet that promises not just good health, but also superior strength, a sharper mind, boundless energy, and perhaps even a few extra years of life. This isn't just about food, it's about identity, ethics, and a deep-seated desire to optimize our bodies and live the best life possible. The battle lines are often drawn quite clearly. On one side, you have passionate advocates for vegetarianism and veganism. They point to potential health benefits, ethical considerations regarding animal welfare, and the significant environmental impact of modern agriculture. They often claim their way of eating leads to a longer, healthier life, free from the chronic diseases that plague the modern world. On the other side are the proponents of omnivorous diets, who argue that meat has been a crucial part of human evolution. They believe that animal products provide essential nutrients that are difficult, if not impossible, to obtain in sufficient quantities from plants alone, making them vital for strength and brain function. So, who is right in this culinary clash? Is there a clear winner in the ultimate showdown between plant-based and animal-based diets? The truth, as is often the case in science, is far more nuanced and interesting than a simple headline can convey. It involves digging into our own biology, understanding what modern studies can and cannot tell us, and recognizing that the perfect diet might not be a one-size-fits-all prescription. To find some answers, we need to move beyond the bold claims and look at the evidence. We must explore what science says about our bodies and the fuel we put into them. In this exploration, we will journey through the key battlegrounds of this debate. We will look at human anatomy to see what clues our bodies give us about our natural diet. We'll examine the science behind strength, intelligence, and longevity, comparing outcomes for vegetarians and non-vegetarians. We will also touch upon the modern phenomenon of extreme dietary advice, often spread by social media influencers, and the potential risks involved. Finally, we will try to piece together a sensible, evidence-based conclusion about what a healthy plate should look like for most of us, navigating a path of moderation and common sense. Advocates for vegetarianism present a compelling case, often built on three main pillars: health, ethics, and the environment. Health is perhaps the most powerful motivator for many. Proponents often claim that a well-planned vegetarian diet can significantly lower the risk of many of our most feared modern illnesses. They point to studies suggesting that people who avoid meat tend to have lower rates of heart disease, type 2 diabetes, certain types of cancer, and high blood pressure. The argument is that plant-based diets are typically lower in saturated fat and cholesterol, while being much higher in fiber, vitamins, and protective phytochemicals, which are beneficial compounds found in plants. Beyond personal health, the ethical argument is a powerful driver for many who choose to forego meat. This perspective centers on the belief that it is morally wrong to cause suffering to animals for the sake of food, especially when nutritious plant-based alternatives are readily available. Adherents to this view highlight the often cramped and inhumane conditions of factory farming. For them, every meal is a choice, and choosing a plant-based option is a vote against a system they consider cruel and unnecessary. This isn't just about diet. It's a fundamental stance on our relationship with other living beings on the planet. The environmental argument has also gained enormous traction in recent years. Raising livestock for meat is an incredibly resource-intensive process. It requires vast amounts of land for grazing and growing feed crops, consumes enormous quantities of water, and is a major contributor to greenhouse gas emissions, such as methane. Supporters of vegetarianism argue that shifting to a plant-based food system is one of the most effective actions an individual can take to reduce their carbon footprint. They see it as a crucial step in combating climate change and preserving our planet's precious biodiversity for future generations. Finally, vegetarians often claim their diet leads to a more energetic and vibrant life. Many report feeling lighter and more active after cutting out meat. They argue that a diet rich in complex carbohydrates from whole grains, fruits, and vegetables provides a more sustained and efficient source of energy compared to the heavier, slower-to-digest meals centered around meat. The promise is not just a longer life, but a better quality of life, filled with vitality. These claims, taken together, paint a picture of a diet that is not only good for the individual, but also for the animals and the planet as a whole. On the other side of the dinner table, Those who include meat in their diet present their own set of powerful arguments, often rooted in human evolution, biology, and nutritional science. A central pillar of their manifesto is the idea that humans are, and always have been, omnivores. They argue that the consumption of meat played a pivotal role in our evolution, particularly in the development of our large, complex brains. The theory goes that meat provided a dense source of calories, protein, and essential fats that fueled the growth of the very organ that makes us human. To deny this biological heritage, they suggest, is to ignore a fundamental part of our nature. From a nutritional standpoint, proponents of meat eating highlight the unique and highly bioavailable nutrients found in animal products. For example, vitamin B12, which is crucial for nerve function and the formation of red blood cells, is naturally found almost exclusively in animal sources. While it can be obtained from fortified foods or supplements, meat eaters argue that getting it from a natural food source is more reliable. Similarly, they point to heme iron, the type of iron found in meat, which is much more easily absorbed by the body than the non-heme iron found in plants. This makes meat a particularly efficient way to prevent iron deficiency anemia. The argument for strength and muscle development is also a key part of the meat eater's case. Animal proteins are complete proteins, meaning they contain all 9 essential amino acids that our bodies cannot produce on their own. These amino acids are the building blocks of muscle tissue, and the argument is that meat provides them in a perfect, ready-to-use package. This is why meat consumption is so deeply ingrained in the culture of athletics and bodybuilding. The belief is that for optimal physical power and recovery, the high-quality protein from animal sources is simply superior to that from plants, which often need to be carefully combined to provide the full amino acid profile. Finally, many non-vegetarians simply argue for a diet of balance and moderation. They don't necessarily advocate for eating huge quantities of meat, but rather for its inclusion as part of a varied and balanced diet that also features plenty of fruits, vegetables, and whole grains. They contend that excluding an entire food group can be restrictive and may lead to nutritional deficiencies if not managed with extreme care. For them, a sensible omnivorous diet represents a time-tested, common-sense approach to nutrition that has sustained human populations for millennia, providing both pleasure and essential nourishment without the need for supplements or obsessive planning. To help settle the debate, it can be useful to look at our own bodies for clues. Are we designed to be pure herbivores, like a cow, or fearsome carnivores, like a lion? The answer, when you examine our anatomy, seems to be somewhere in the middle. Let's start with our teeth. Unlike a lion, we don't have long, sharp canines designed for ripping and tearing raw flesh. But unlike a cow, we don't have a mouthful of large, flat molars designed for endlessly grinding tough grasses. Instead, we have a mix in sizes at the front for biting, smaller canines, and flatter premolars and molars at the back for chewing and grinding. This versatile dental toolkit suggests we evolved to handle a wide variety of foods, from soft fruits to fibrous roots and cooked meat. Now, let's venture inside to our digestive system. A true carnivore like a lion has a very short and simple digestive tract. Meat is relatively easy to digest, so the nutrients are absorbed quickly and the waste is expelled fast. In contrast, a true herbivore like a cow has an incredibly long and complex digestive system, often with multiple stomach chambers. This is because breaking down tough plant cellulose requires a lot of time and fermentation by specialized gut bacteria. Where do humans fit in? Our digestive tract is longer than a lion's, but significantly shorter than a cow's. Our stomach produces strong hydrochloric acid, which is good for killing bacteria in meat and breaking down protein, but our long small intestine is well suited for absorbing nutrients from plants. Another interesting clue comes from our inability to produce our own vitamin C. Most carnivores can synthesize their own vitamin C, so they don't need to get it from their diet. Herbivores, on the other hand, get plenty of it from all the plants they eat. Like other primates and guinea pigs, humans must get vitamin C from food. This strongly suggests a long evolutionary history where fruit and vegetables were a constant and reliable part of our diet. If we were pure carnivores, this dependency would have been a major disadvantage. This biological fact firmly places us in the camp of creatures that require plants to survive. So, what does all this anatomical evidence tell us? It points overwhelmingly to the conclusion that humans are not specialists. We are not lions, and we are not lambs. We are classic omnivores, beautifully adapted to be dietary generalists. Our bodies are built to thrive on a mixed diet, with the flexibility to extract nutrients from both the plant and animal kingdoms. This biological design gave our ancestors a huge survival advantage, allowing them to find food in almost any environment. It doesn't tell us what the optimal diet is in our modern world, but it does show that we have the biological equipment to handle both steaks and salads. The image of a strong person is often associated with eating meat. From ancient warriors to modern bodybuilders, protein from animal sources has long been seen as the ultimate fuel for building muscle and power. There is a scientific basis for this belief. As mentioned, animal proteins are complete, providing all the essential amino acids in proportions that are ideal for muscle protein synthesis. This is the process where our bodies repair and build muscle fibers after exercise. Because of this, many athletes and physically active individuals believe that a diet including meat, poultry, and fish gives them a distinct advantage in gaining strength and improving performance. However, the world of sports is also filled with a growing number of successful vegetarian and even vegan athletes. From tennis stars to ultramarathon runners and professional weightlifters, these individuals prove that it is entirely possible to build a powerful physique on a plant-based diet. It does, however, require more careful planning. Plant-based athletes must be diligent about combining different protein sources, such as beans with rice or lentils with nuts, to ensure they get the full spectrum of essential amino acids. They also often need to consume a larger volume of food to meet their protein and calorie needs, as plant foods are generally less dense in these macronutrients. Scientific studies that have directly compared muscle gain between groups on different diets have produced interesting and sometimes mixed results. When total protein intake is matched, many studies show little to no difference in muscle growth or strength gains between those consuming animal protein and those consuming plant protein. For instance, well-formulated soy or pea protein supplements have been shown to be just as effective as whey protein, which is derived from milk, in promoting muscle synthesis. The key takeaway seems to be that the total amount and quality of the protein consumed is more important than its source, whether it comes from a chicken breast or a chickpea curry. So, where does that leave us? The evidence suggests that while meat provides a very convenient and efficient package of muscle-building nutrients, it is by no means essential for strength. A well-structured vegetarian diet can absolutely provide everything the body needs to be strong and powerful. The debate, therefore, is less about vegetarian versus non-vegetarian, and more about well-planned versus poorly planned diets. An omnivore who eats mostly processed junk food will fare far worse than a vegetarian who carefully manages their intake of protein, vitamins, and minerals. Strength is not determined by the exclusion of meat, but by the inclusion of sufficient high-quality nutrients, regardless of the source. The link between what we eat and how we think and feel is becoming increasingly clear. Our brains are incredibly hungry organs, consuming about 20% of our daily energy intake, even though they make up only about 2% of our body weight. To function optimally, the brain really needs a steady supply of high-quality fuel. Non-vegetarians often argue that certain nutrients abundant in animal products are critical for peak cognitive function. Omega-3 fatty acids, especially DHA, are vital for brain cell structure and communication. While fatty fish are the richest source, plant-based sources like algae, flax seeds, and walnuts also provide omega-3s, though in a form the body must convert, which is, honestly, less efficient. On the other hand, proponents of plant-based diets argue that their way of eating is superior for long-term brain health and sustained energy. Diets rich in fruits, vegetables, and whole grains are packed with antioxidants and anti-inflammatory compounds. These substances help protect the brain from oxidative stress, a form of cellular damage that's linked to cognitive decline and neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's. Furthermore, the complex carbohydrates found in plant foods provide a slow and steady release of glucose, which is the brain's primary fuel source. This can lead to more stable mood and concentration levels, helping you avoid those energy spikes and crashes that come with sugary processed foods. When it comes to general activity levels and daily energy, both sides make valid points. Some people report feeling sluggish and heavy after a large meat-heavy meal, a feeling sometimes called a food coma. This can be due to the higher fat content and the energy required for digestion. In contrast, many who switch to a vegetarian diet report feeling lighter and more energetic. However, a poorly planned vegetarian diet that's low in iron or vitamin B12 can lead to fatigue and lethargy. Iron is crucial for transporting oxygen in the blood, and a deficiency can leave you feeling constantly tired, no matter how much you sleep. Ultimately, the science doesn't declare a clear winner for intelligence or activity levels. Instead, it points toward the importance of specific nutrients and overall dietary patterns. A diet that supports a sharp mind and an active body, whether it includes meat or not, will be rich in a variety of whole foods. It will contain plenty of colorful vegetables and fruits for antioxidants, healthy fats for brain structure, adequate high-quality protein for neurotransmitter production, and sufficient iron and B vitamins for energy metabolism. A diet full of processed foods, unhealthy fats, and sugar will be detrimental to both brain power and energy, regardless of whether it technically qualifies as vegetarian or omnivorous. The quest for a long and healthy life is, a universal human desire, and diet is often seen as the key to unlocking it. This is actually one of the most hotly contested areas in the vegetarian versus non-vegetarian debate. Large-scale population studies, known as epidemiological studies, have consistently found that groups of people who eat predominantly plant-based diets, like the Seventh-day Adventists in California, tend to live longer and have lower rates of chronic disease than the general population. These studies suggest a strong correlation between vegetarianism and increased lifespan, with some research indicating vegetarians may live several years longer on average. These findings are often attributed to several factors. As we've discussed, vegetarian diets are typically lower in saturated fat and cholesterol, and higher in fiber, which is linked to better cardiovascular health. The higher intake of fruits and vegetables also means a higher intake of antioxidants and other protective compounds that may help reduce the risk of cancer and slow the aging process at a cellular level. It's also important to note that people who choose to be vegetarian often adopt other healthy behaviors as well. They may be less likely to smoke, drink alcohol in excess, and more likely to exercise regularly, which can also contribute to their increased longevity. However, it's not as simple as saying meat shortens your life. The type and quantity of meat consumed seem to matter a great deal. Many studies that link meat consumption to poorer health outcomes don't distinguish between a small portion of lean, grilled chicken and a daily diet of processed meats like bacon, sausages, and deli slices. There's a growing body of evidence suggesting that processed meats are particularly harmful, being strongly linked to an increased risk of colorectal cancer and heart disease. In contrast, the consumption of unprocessed red meat and poultry in moderation, as part of a balanced diet, appears to have a much weaker, if any, link to mortality. Therefore, the science suggests that the secret to a long life is not necessarily the complete elimination of meat, but rather a focus on a diet dominated by whole plant-based foods. The world's blue zones, regions where people live exceptionally long and healthy lives, such as Okinawa in Japan and Sardinia in Italy, provide a real-world model. While their diets vary, they share common themes. They are overwhelmingly plant-based, with meat consumed sparingly, often only a few times a month as a small side dish, rather than the main event. Their longevity comes from a holistic lifestyle that includes a healthy diet, regular physical activity, and strong social connections, not from a single dietary rule. In our modern digital age, nutritional advice is honestly everywhere. Social media platforms are filled with charismatic influencers promoting an array of extreme diets, often with promises of rapid weight loss, miraculous health transformations, and peak physical performance. We see diets like the carnivore diet, where people eat nothing but meat and animal products, or extreme fruitarian diets, where only raw fruit is consumed. These influencers often present their chosen diet as the one and only solution to all health problems, backing up their claims with compelling personal anecdotes and a veneer of scientific-sounding language. This can be incredibly persuasive, especially for people who are desperate for answers to their health concerns. The danger lies in the fact that this advice is often based on half-truths, misinterpretations of scientific studies, or simply personal belief rather than robust evidence. An influencer may have genuinely felt better after adopting a certain diet, but their personal experience is not a substitute for controlled scientific research. They may cherry-pick data that supports their claims, while ignoring a vast body of evidence that contradicts it. This creates a confusing and often misleading landscape for the public, where extreme and potentially unbalanced ways of eating are presented as mainstream, proven science. This can lead people to adopt diets that are not only unsustainable, but also potentially dangerous. Following these extreme diets without proper medical supervision can pose serious health risks. A diet consisting only of meat, for example, completely lacks fiber, which is essential for gut health and can lead to severe constipation and an increased risk of colon cancer over the long term. It is also devoid of the thousands of protective phytochemicals found in plants. Conversely, a poorly planned and highly restrictive vegan or fruitarian diet can easily lead to severe deficiencies in essential nutrients like vitamin B12, calcium, iron, and omega-3 fatty acids, which can result in anemia, bone density loss, and neurological problems. It is crucial for us to approach dietary information, especially from online sources, with a healthy dose of skepticism. We must learn to distinguish between a qualified nutrition professional and a self-proclaimed guru. Look for advice that is balanced, acknowledges nuance, and is supported by a consensus in the scientific community, rather than a single charismatic individual. Remember that if a diet sounds too good to be true, promises a quick fix, or requires you to eliminate entire food groups without a clear medical reason, it is wise to be cautious. Your health is far too important to be gambled on the latest social media trend. After exploring the claims, the biology, and the science, what can we conclude in this ultimate showdown? The truth is, there is no single winner. Honest science does not hand the trophy to either the vegetarians or the non-vegetarians. Instead, it highlights a set of principles that can guide us toward a healthier way of eating, regardless of which camp we fall into. The evidence overwhelmingly points away from extremes and towards a diet that is balanced, varied, and centered around whole, minimally processed foods. The biggest health problems in the modern world are not caused by eating meat or avoiding it. They are caused by eating too much highly processed junk food, which is packed with sugar, unhealthy fats, and salt. So what does a practical, evidence-based plate look like for most people? The foundation of any healthy diet should be plants. Aim to fill at least half of your plate at every meal with a colorful variety of vegetables and fruits. These provide the essential vitamins, minerals, fiber, and antioxidants that protect our bodies and keep them running smoothly. Add to that a good portion of whole grains like oats, brown rice, and quinoa, as well as legumes like beans, lentils, and chickpeas. These foods provide sustained energy, more fiber, and valuable plant-based protein. For those who choose to eat animal products, the key is moderation and quality. Think of meat as a supporting actor rather than the star of the show. Choose leaner cuts of unprocessed poultry and fish, particularly oily fish like salmon or mackerel, which are rich in beneficial omega-3 fats. Limit your consumption of red meat and treat processed meats like bacon and sausage as an occasional indulgence rather than a daily staple. Including dairy products like yogurt and milk can be a great source of calcium, but again, moderation is key. This approach, often called a flexitarian diet, captures the benefits of plant-based eating while still allowing for the nutritional advantages of some animal products. Ultimately, the best diet is one that you can enjoy and stick with for the long term. It should be rich in real food, mostly plants, but can flexibly accommodate your personal preferences, ethics, and health needs. Forget the showdown and the extreme ideologies. Listen to the quiet, consistent message from the bulk of scientific research. Eat a wide variety of whole foods, cook more of your own meals, and be mindful of what you put on your plate. By following this simple, practical advice, you can build a diet that supports your strength, your brain, your energy, and your longevity for many years to come.